Hi, I'm Paige Reckman. I'm a licensed psychotherapist based in Brooklyn, New York, and today I'm going to be going over the 4 different types of negative self-talk that may be holding you back from living your life fully and how to address each one. So really quickly, before I go over the 4 different types of negative self-talk, we really need to discuss what self-talk actually is. It may seem self-explanatory, right? That self-talk is the way that we talk to ourselves. However, self-talk can be a little sneaky. Oftentimes, it isn't coming to us in explicit language. When we are engaging in negative self-talk, it can often be a blur of images in our minds or these really negative stories that are really unclear but are making us feel really bad. When you notice yourself feeling off or anxious or down, take a moment to pause and reflect. What is it that I'm actually telling myself right now? You can even say to yourself, the thought that I'm having is, and reflecting on your self-talk is a great start, but writing it down can be even more effective. When you become more aware of these messages that your brain is telling you, you can then start to identify the type of negative thinking that you're engaging in and know what to do to address it. So here comes the fun part. We're going to be talking about the 4 types of negative self-talk. And I'm going to present them to you in the way that I view them, which is like 4 little monsters with these distinct personalities that are running around our brains, creating havoc in our lives, but are oftentimes not as scary as they seem once you can identify who they are, what they're doing, and learn to challenge what they're telling you. So allow me to introduce to you the worrier, the critic, the perfectionist, and the victim. You may already know what kind of negative self-talk you engage in just by hearing their names, but I'm going to go over each one more specifically. And as I do, try to pay attention to how present each type of negative self-talk is in your life and the ways in which it affects you. Does it affect you at work, in your relationships, your mood, your motivation? And you can do this by rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being this affects me a lot, 1 being I don't really engage in this kind of negative self-talk too often in my life. So first up we have the worrier. The worrier tends to give you anxiety. Its favorite phrase is what if? So what if I lose my job? What if no one likes me? What if I never meet anyone? What if everything goes wrong? Its main focus is on the future. This type of negative self-talk loves to automatically assume the worst case scenario. It tends to be very hyper-vigilant in social situations and always trying to prevent something from going wrong. But oftentimes the worrier is there to protect you from being hurt. It wants to try and keep you safe, but more often than not, it goes into overdrive and can do more harm than good. So if this sounds like you and you tend to worry a lot, make sure you check out my video on overcoming anxiety through the mind, body, and spirit. You can also think through, if the worst case scenario does happen, how would I handle it? And try to remind yourself when you're feeling anxious or fearful that this feeling will pass. Next up, we have the critic. The critic loves to give you low self-esteem. Its favorite phrase is, there must be something wrong with me. It says things like, ugh, I'm so stupid, or no one else seems to have this problem. What's wrong with me? It likes to convince you that you should have known better and that everything you do is wrong. The critic loves to put you down, call you names, make you feel small and unworthy. And oftentimes the critic is repeating messages from people that have wounded us in the past, like parents, coaches, siblings. Its main focus is on flaws. And usually the critic is around because it wants to keep us humble or help us to avoid making mistakes in the future. But over time, these messages can be very damaging. So if you tend to be overly critical of yourself and maybe even others, make sure to check out my video on 5 tips to build positive self-esteem. It can also be helpful to remind yourself that you are okay the way that you are, and that you deserve to be happy even with your flaws. Next up, we have the perfectionist. The perfectionist is a close cousin to the critic. Its favorite phrase is, I should. I should go to this party even though I'm exhausted. I should be further along in my career right now. I shouldn't feel sad when I have so much to be grateful for. It tends to keep you burnt out, exhausted, and never satisfied. The perfectionist loves to create high or even impossible expectations for yourself and for others. It doesn't allow for mistakes. When the perfectionist is around, it's really hard to feel content with yourself and any progress you've made in your life. The perfectionist loves to focus on the perception of others and how they view you. And usually when we have perfectionist tendencies, they're there because we want to try to be the best that we can be. This kind of self-talk wants you to have power and control in your life. However, when something does go wrong or you make a mistake and you do not have control over a situation, having these perfectionistic thoughts are gonna make you feel like your whole world is falling apart. So if this type of negative self-talk is present for you, you need to remember, not just logically, but internally, that everyone makes mistakes, including you. Remember, when things don't go perfectly, you can still learn from setbacks and imperfections. Know that your needs are as important as anyone else's. And it may be helpful to remind yourself that you don't have to take life so seriously all the time. And last, but definitely not least, we have the victim. The victim mentality tends to make you feel depressed. Its favorite phrase is, "I can't." I can't change my negative thinking. I can't get a new job. I can't find a boyfriend. I can't do it. The victim tends to be full of regret and often feels hopeless, incredibly pessimistic, and can be very skeptical that anything is ever going to get better. And the victim loves to complain about anything and everything that is not within its control. If you have this kind of mentality, it may be trying to protect you from rejection and also keep you feeling comfortable. And sometimes that victim mentality is a subconscious way for you to seek help from others that you weren't able to get in the past. If you tend to have this victim mentality, it's really important to take baby steps and start small. Make progress in ways that are realistic to you and know that you don't have to be completely better tomorrow. You're gonna also wanna try to make the active choice to acknowledge your strengths, the progress that you have made in your life, and also practice gratitude. Even if you don't believe in yourself, you can remind yourself that you are trying to believe in yourself. So now that we've gone over the 4 different types of negative self-talk, which one is most strong for you? Maybe all of them are present at times, maybe a few of them don't really come into play in your life. I think for me, the critic is probably the most present, but I've definitely had moments where the victim shows up, and the perfectionist, and of course the worrier. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know which type of negative self-talk you engage in most frequently, and if any of these ideas to help to counter some of that negativity may be helpful for you. Now that you can identify the different types of self-talk, I hope that in the future you're able to stop those little negativity monsters from holding you back from living your life. Make sure to subscribe if you're interested in learning more ways on how to improve your mental health, and I hope that you are on your way to a more fulfilling and positive outlook. Have a good one. Bye.